There are a lot of things that I want to buy. See, the problem is, there's a lot of really cool camera gear out there. There are like $1,600 lenses that I really want. There's a compact camera that I'm seriously considering buying, especially for this YouTube channel and for my photography in general. I want to own houses, I want a nicer car, I want a really nice education. There are a lot of things that I desire in this world, in a material sense at least. And what I've learned over my time working between the ages of 16 and now at my age of 22 is delaying gratification is an incredible tool to make sure you don't make dumb buying decisions. Let me explain. I was 17 years old. I'd been working at my first real job for a little bit over a year. Now, there is a store chain in my town that buys used video games and then sells it back for a relatively cheap cost. Now, I was a naive little person who thought that he could beat the system. So I went to the store and I spent over $400 on 2 boxes. Now, what were in those boxes, you may ask? Well, it was an Xbox and then also a PS2 gaming bundle. Now, I'm talking like original Xbox, and this was probably in 2015 or 16. So you have to imagine, this is already a questionable buying decision, but it gets worse. So each of these boxes came with their respective consoles, and then 50 games bundled into those consoles. And they had some actually pretty okay titles. Now the Xbox One didn't have anything that really stood out too much to me. I did have a few like knockoff Nintendo games here and there, and it also had, oh man, it had like a Wolverine game that I had played whenever I was a kid that I really wanted to play again. And then the PS2 had, I know it had a, oh man, what's that game called with the Disney characters? Has like the key, sword, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It'll come to me after this video is over and I'll probably leave an edit, probably not because I'm lazy, but I'll leave something to mention what it was. There are a few games there that I recognize, so I bought both of the consoles, and I had an intention with these consoles. I was going to use a capture card, I was going to record myself playing each of these games, and then I was going to go onto eBay and sell the games and try to recover some of the cost. What ended up actually happening, and if you look back way back in my channel, I don't even know if I have any videos from this era actually, that bookshelf back there, the top 2 shelves actually used to house all of those games as my backdrop. Man, my videos probably don't even have that because it's been so long since then. But what I ended up doing was I took all of those games back to the store like 2.5 years later, and I got maybe 25-50 bucks for everything. So it was really like a $350+ mistake. Me thinking that I was going to have the motivation and skill to be able to sell these games and also record everything and post it on YouTube. Because back then I was doing more gaming content than real life content. And what I learned from that experience was not to make impulse buying decisions. Because I'd walked into that store, I looked at those boxes, and I thought to myself, I can do this. And in reality, if I had just given it a little bit more thought, done some more research on what would be in those boxes and what the resale value of those games were, I wouldn't have made that buying decision. So how does that relate to today? Well, I'm currently looking at a compact camera because a DSLR is a pretty hefty thing to bring around with you in your day-to-day life. Now, whenever I take this camera with me, I usually have an intention. I'm usually thinking about what I actually want to go out and shoot. But there are times when I'm going out and random events happen or random scenes occur where I really wish I had a really quality camera with me. And unfortunately, my camera phone doesn't have the best image quality. Now I use the Google Pixel 3 XL. It's not a bad camera. It has 12 megapixels, pretty okay low light, not a terrible image. But it's not a dedicated camera. It's a phone, and it will always have computer processing and phone first over the camera. What I want is something I can fit into my pocket that I can take pictures with all the time. And I'm currently looking at the Canon G7X Mark II, and it's very likely in the next 2 weeks I will have bought that. But I'm not buying it immediately. I've been doing research for the past 2 weeks on this camera with the entire intention of making sure that's not an impulse decision to buy it. Because I've looked at lenses online that are over $1,000 that would really up my entire photography and cinematography game, but I haven't bought them yet. I have the money in my bank account, but by delaying the gratification of buying those lenses, saving properly, budgeting my money to be able to buy this awesome gear, I value it more, I appreciate it more, and I make sure that I have money just in case something goes wrong, like my car permanently dying because it's really on its last legs. If I have a random medical expense that comes up that I have to pay for, whatever it might be, I want to make sure I have money in the bank. So, delaying gratification, incredibly important. It's a skill that not a lot of people really employ anymore, because with Amazon, you click 3 or 4 buttons and all of a sudden you have a really cool piece of gear getting shipped to you, and then maybe 2 weeks later you realize you didn't need it. And I'll have a whole separate video talking about how how people buy things that they don't need, but I'm going to end that off here. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you go ahead and leave it a like. If you want to see more, don't be afraid to subscribe. That button's not going to hurt you. You can always unsubscribe later if you don't want to watch any more of my content, but there's no reason not to subscribe. It's free. Do not forget to keep it casual.